welcome back to another episode of EdTech Connect Innovators in Conversation. Today we are joined by our special guest in office. We usually do this online, but he happened to be in New York, which makes it even better. Arturo from Pocketalk, Director of K-12 Partnerships. How are you?
Doing well. Happy to be back in New York and in December. It's always fun here.
Yes, we were talking briefly about Christmas in New York before, but alas, you have already been here before during Christmas in New York, so.
I have, but I hadn't not seen Santa riding a bike down Broadway, and I saw that just now. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome. And then back from our magician side is Eric for another episode. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing well. I haven't gone anywhere, so it's nice to remain here in New York. And I think you saw my dad riding down the street on that bicycle, so.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited for today's conversation. Language learning is something very passionate about and excited always to talk about. I'm sure anyone who knows me knows about that. But today we're going to really talk more about the side of accessibility with AI and how that's interlacing with language learning and making all of the education accessible in general to any learner. So before we get into the serious discussion, as always, I start with a fun icebreaker that they did not know about in advance. So we're going to keep it a little bit easier today. If you were a holiday icon, which holiday would you be?
Oh, I think I need Arturo to go first.
Holiday icon, which icon? Like holiday is in this time of year?
Any holiday.
Oh, any holiday.
Yeah, I'm going to be nice and open it to any holiday.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know if that's helpful or makes it more difficult.
Jeez. Well, I mean, I tend to think of myself, love this time of year, obviously, and I'm in New York, so I can't help but refer back to the holiday icon that is Buddy the Elf. And what I loved about Buddy the Elf always was not only that he's 6 feet tall, kind of like, or six, whatever, like me, but he just has that spirit of being happy and seeing good in a lot of people and seeing good in everything he sees out in the street. So that's kind of what I try to do. And again, that's probably part of the reason why I love being here in New York at this time.
Oh, that's such a good one. It's like a little bit of a segue into what we're going to film later this month for a office gig. Surprise, Eric.
And I'm doing everything I can not to go after the question itself and its merits. But if I had to choose an icon for a holiday, I think I would choose the Easter Bunny, not because I'm religious in any way, shape, or form, but because I think that it's such an inexplicable icon for a holiday that's meant to mark the birth of, or the resurrection rather, of our Lord.
Yeah.
And it's a bunny who delivers eggs, and I just love the incongruity of the whole thing.
Okay. Well, very creative answers. I'm excited. And that was, I think, maybe one of my easier icebreaker questions. Maybe we'll let others.
I beg to differ.
Okay, yes. So you have your answer there. All right. Well, we're all warmed up. We're ready to get super serious. Not really, but also more thoughtful. So our first question for this conversation is, how are advances in language technology and digital accessibility, as demonstrated by both companies, helping schools and institutions move beyond near compliance to achieve true equity for multilingual learners?
Okay.
Carol, we'll start.
Well, I'll start. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful question. What we tend to think about at Pocketalk is just making sure that we're able to provide equity for all students, no matter what language background they come from. So we tend to think in terms of what can we do to make sure that students feel engaged and welcomed in classrooms, where parents also feel welcomed in classroom. We often forget about parents and the role that they can play for students and their success. So we need to think about our newcomer students, our newcomer families as well, and then thinking in terms of what we can do to help staff. Because when you're thinking about what teachers have to do on a daily basis, it's already daunting. And now I have to figure out how to do that with multilingual students. And often in some places like New York City, where you may have 10 different languages going on in your classroom. So what can we do with technology? What can we do with AI? What can we do in general to help the student, help the families, and help the staff as well, to ensure success for our students and to make it a little less stressful for everybody involved. But that's our challenge, and we're taking it on, and we're really excited to be a big part of making that making that a successful situation for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. As someone who was an instructor in a multilingual classroom, I can resonate with that, where I'd be trying to explain something to the majority of the class in one language, and then there's the other 10, 15 kids that are just like on their phones because they don't understand. So then I have to switch to the other language, and then the other part of the class is now on their phones, and it's just a lot to manage at once. So very excited to hear that with Pocketalk, we're starting to see that bridge going to every language speaker and help expedite how people are digesting the content and maybe instructing it. So
Absolutely.
now coming to Eric on your side in terms of building the content, right? What does that look like?
Right. That's what I do for context for anyone who's watching and listening. What my role and my team's role is in this particular scenario is often to create the courseware, the content that students are consuming in the classroom that the teacher is teaching to or from or around. And what we're able to do now because of the technology that's available is really make sure that those students have the resources that are in the language that they speak, that they have interventions that provide them with translations in real time. So what we're able to do is, and my goal outside of the language question is always to make sure that every student is going to have an equal opportunity to succeed. And what this does is help us overcome a particular and a pronounced barrier for students and give them those course materials in an authentic and real and accurate way that's in the language that they can learn best in. And again, provide them with additional supports to help if they're learning the English language at that time too.
Mm-hmm. I really like the point you said with authentic content with it. I feel a major concern when anyone's starting to talk about AI tools for teacher course creation, anything is the authenticity with the content still there? And is this now creating new obstacles or challenges in this learning environment? So leading into our next question, what are the most significant challenges in creating language accessible learning environments or content or solutions? And what have both of you built to address these obstacles for educators, students, district administrators?
Sure. No, so I think we touched on the challenges for so many schools when it comes to just the language diversity that's in our classroom and not always having staff on hand that can help. Some parts of the country, we do see that staff is available. For example, I'm from Texas, so we often see Spanish being predominantly the language that the support is required. But then there tends to be staff available to help in that situation. But in other places in particular, like here in New York, where you might have 10 to 15 different languages that require support and you don't necessarily have staff that can do that, then at that point, you need something else. You'll need some sort of other help there, and that's where we see our role coming in and in making sure that students again feel welcomed and are getting the fundamental communication that they need just to become part of the school community. I think of a story I was told from upstate New York about a student who had just recently come to the country from Ukraine. And student arrives, and that day they were going to have their practicing their fire drill, doing their fire drill that we all kind of take for granted. We've done hundreds of times, and everybody just gets that it's practice. It's not real. We just have to do this. Well, there was no staff on hand that could explain that to the student.
Ukrainian, yep.
So you can imagine when the alarms start going off, that the student, and I was told this, the student, quote unquote, freaked out because nobody had been able to explain this fundamental bit of information that would have made this salt situation, basically go away. It could have totally eliminated that. So I tend to think in terms of what are those fundamental communications that need to happen, excuse me, for students and again for families, and how can we do that with technology to make it easy, budget friendly, and quick and accurate. And I think that's the role that we tend to play at Pocketalk.
Yeah, I actually had the experience though when I was talking to Katie from your team to try out your product in an online environment. So you guys have the ability to have your tool join into a call either from the phone or even on the screen and translate real time, correct?
Right. We have a new product that we're launching called Sentio that works on your devices. You don't need the other Pocketalk device like that is already being used in hundreds of schools. But Sentio now allows you to actually have students or families in person or online scan a QR code on their device and then pick their language, and then you're now able to follow along, listen, or read the presentation that's being made in your language. So imagine that kind of model where you can have those 10, 15 languages all going at once in the same room and everybody getting the same message at the very same time. And that's where the technology is at this point.
That's so cool. Yeah, I tried it out. It was mind blowing, but it really leads into the whole idea of these global classrooms that we're starting to head in society as a world, but not only just from the tool side, but then in terms of the content and how this is all going to be interconnected to overcome those obstacles that we were previously facing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. So Eric.
Yeah, I think that the primary obstacle, again, what I find myself doing, or my team is often doing, is translating courseware, course materials into whatever language happens to be relevant. And we found ourselves facing enormous corpuses of content. Just sheer volume is often incredible and Herculean. And the primary challenge that we see is that the tooling itself is not perfect. And as somebody who's been in educational publishing and product development for 30 years, one of my through lines is always to make sure that I am not creating additional barriers for students, not introducing any biases, giving every student an equal opportunity to succeed. And the moment a translation lacks that authenticity, lacks some regional awareness, gets into any sort of awkward phrasing or idioms that don't resonate in the right way, you're throwing that particular student off the mark, and they have to spend valuable cognitive time trying to figure out what's actually being said. And the tooling out there is fantastic, and it is redoubling in its power virtually every day. But nothing's perfect. No people are perfect. So the challenge there is when there is an enormous sum of content, ensuring that the translation is at the right lexical level, is authentic in terms of its presentation, and is giving that same student an equivalent educational experience. And it's a work in progress. That's why at Magic we've just established a dialectic between the technology that we use to do that work and subject matter experts, language experts who could help us, try and thread that particular needle. But that's I think are going to be an ongoing problem. But the happy news is it gets better every day with tools like what your company offers and tools that are publicly available.
Well, yeah, but even from Magic, we have worked, not to get into like the technicalities of a case study, but there have been projects that you've led where we've had an enormous amount of content and had to translate it rapidly into a different language. Correct? What does that kind of look like from an end to end?
It's required a lot of iteration and a lot of creative thinking and a lot of problem solving. And there's a fellow who's off camera right now, an engineer who really helped us think through that. So for instance, we once translated, I think it was north of 6,000 different educational assets.
Wow.
Which went from audio recordings to print textbooks to videos to HTML, interactive exercises, etc. So all modalities. It was for a particular city that had passed an ordinance where any material that was adopted needed to be offered in both English and Spanish. So we were translating that, and what we had to do was really find the right model, So we ended up using DBEL as the model there. But we had to iterate on how we fine-tuned that over time, and the authenticity, the resonance, the just the accuracy of the translation. We had to do several stages in certain cases because there was audio, there was video. We had to do a speech to text and then translate the text back to speech. And there's, even additional variables that creep in when you're doing that. Ultimately, it was successful. We were able to do that. I think it totaled, it was something like 3 million words that we translated inside of about 4 months, which would have taken years. And happily, it's been in that district. All of those materials have been in that district, and no one's bucked or said that they've had any issues. I mean, it seems to have gone really smoothly. So I think we've been successful there. And again, what I'm happy about is it's a largely Spanish speaking district. So now those students are getting materials, however they're being consumed or whatever type they are, in the language that they can understand.
Yeah, truly accessible and equal learning opportunities were created from that.
That's right. And across disciplines too. So it's not just localized. Our history class is going to be in both Spanish. It's algebra, it's English. It's literally their English classes has Spanish components now. So
that's so great. I love that. Well, talking more into ownership, unfortunately or fortunately, in today's day and age, we can't have a conversation without AI entering the chat. So now we're going to have AI enter our chat today. So talking more about privacy, ownership, as we were mentioning, when it comes to AI, what role should it play in supporting multilingual learners, and what approaches do both companies employ to ensure these technologies are inclusive and ethical? Maybe how it's being used.
Do you want to take a first swing, or do you?
No, absolutely. AI is amazing. We were just talking about our ISTE experience in San Antonio this year, and walking in the exhibit hall and just seeing AI, pretty much wall to wall.
I mean, have a booth next to you, like a whole room just AI.
Just AI. So there's this give and take with AI, I think, where it's amazing, and the work that it can do, and the support that it can give, and the scaffolds that it can provide to students and to teachers, as far as I'm concerned, helping everybody do their job and to learn better, learn maybe faster. Is the potential is just, I feel like we're just scratching the surface at this point. There's still so much more where this can go.
Yeah.
So that's the give, I guess, but the take being, okay, well, what are we having to provide here? What are we giving up in terms of privacy, in terms of the information that maybe shouldn't be shared and shouldn't be included in these engines. So we have to think about both sides as we're making progress, but that's been the case with technology from the beginning. That's nothing new. It's just like on a whole other level, a whole other scale at this point. What we've done at Pocketalk to help us there is, while AI is a part of what we do, we don't use it to teach the engine. That's nothing, and mainly we do that because when you're thinking about how our technology is used, there is opportunities sometime for or necessities for people to actually include names or personal information, personal identifiable information that maybe shouldn't be out there in the system. Right. So because that's, again, part of those fundamental conversations that have to happen in every school every day. So what we've done is we take privacy very seriously. That's kind of one of our tenets as far as what makes differentiates our technologies from other translation technologies, is that privacy is built into the product, built into what we do. And so the extent to which AI is a part of what we do tends to fall on erasing the ums and the ahs that we all use in natural conversation to basically smooth out the translation when it comes out of the technology. So it's not again, not part of what we do when it comes to teaching the system. It's really just a matter of making the translations better, making them easier to understand. So again, that's just a big part of what we do. We make sure that privacy is baked right into everything when it comes to our translation technologies.
Yeah, which is great because also I know we were talking a little bit earlier in terms of how you guys are also in the healthcare side.
Right.
And with healthcare is obviously personal identifying information, maybe conversations that people don't want a record of being on there. So
Exactly.
going through all of that.
Oh, exactly. Yes. So healthcare is a big part of what we do now moving forward. And so for that reason, we've made sure that we've have compliance when it comes to HIPAA. So we have that certification. And then for education, we've done the same with COPPA and FERPA. We make sure that we've covered our bases when it comes to again, ensuring that privacy and that data is not being shared where it shouldn't be shared.
Awesome. Good news there, guys. I hope everyone's feeling whew. Now, coming into the magic side, Eric, because we've used AI as a combination with SMEs to create the course content, and especially when it comes to districts and wanting to make sure that their students' data is not being processed, they're owning the product and the content that they're being given. What does this look like in terms of Magic's inside when we're going through the course building content side generation?
Yeah, well, happily, or actually unhappily, you referenced the ums and uhs that we all use. So now I'm hyper aware of any or that comes out of my face. But relative,
Don't worry, we'll use AI to cut you off.
there we go. Okay. Thank goodness for AI. But relative to Magic's role, because we are using wow, I really am aware of it now. No, our role and the nature of it is that we are frequently working with the intellectual property of other institutions or other organizations. So what our primary role in this is to make sure that that intellectual property and those copyrights are respected and maintained. So what that forces us to do, not forces, but the thing we have to be cognizant of doing is creating sort of a walled garden around our LLM. Any of the content that we're using, we need to make sure it is secure so that other purveyors of content or others who might seek to get that content on a whim or for free aren't able to get it. We need to respect that this is the intellectual property of somebody else. So we make sure that our LLMs are secure, that the content that we're working with is just like it would be if we were working on manuscript back in the 80s and 90s, where it's just somebody in a fussy office with their yellowed notes and typewriter, et cetera. It's just as secure as that. Although I am cognizant of course, all of the data privacy concerns relative to students engaging with the products and platforms of our own clients. We don't simply have that frontline a role in doing that unless they've actually asked us to help support their platform, what have you, and then we bring just the engineering prowess that's needed to make sure that those environments are secure and that there is no slippage when it comes to acquiring any of the data, because I agree our personal information is critical, increasingly exposed, so we want to do what we can to exacerbate that issue as little as possible.
Yeah. All I'm hearing is good news. Both sides are good.
What you're hearing is that we're trying and we're taking it seriously.
It's very good. This is, I just want to say, like, setting the bar for how people should be using AI effectively in terms of language accessibility, authentic course generation. So I hope people are now being like, okay, both companies are good, okay, with their AI usage. And
no evil empires here.
Yeah, it's all good vibes. Now, getting closer to the end of our conversation, let's start offering helpful, since we're good on the AI side, some guidance towards other people, and maybe first steps that you both would recommend to schools, districts looking to enhance their language accessibility and equity efforts based on your experience and leadership in this space.
And that's a wonderful question. I think oftentimes schools and school districts will know there is a language barrier issue,
Yeah.
and it's on the radar, but oftentimes does not get addressed, and that's been the case for years. I'm an English learner myself. I was a multilingual teacher myself back in the in the 90s. I'll tell you, I was in the 90s. I was a student in the 70s, and definitely the needs have been there forever. And oftentimes, unfortunately, schools are either not able, don't have the resources, or sometimes just don't know what's available and how there are solutions that can be utilized to try to make things better for students and families and staff. So what I always recommend is think in terms of, okay, let's identify what languages we need support with, how many students, what grade levels they're in, where's that data when it comes to students, and in particular with the newcomer students. My goal is to try to ensure that every newcomer student to a school has a safe and welcoming experience, because so often you touched on the student who sits and kind of doesn't do anything, is in that on the phone or talking to friends, or sometimes they're totally isolated, like the other student we talked about, where nobody in the school can communicate with them. Yeah. And just imagine that student, that experience, and how long it might take for that student to get where they need to be, where they can communicate, and where people can not just fundamentally communicate, but now communicate to learn as well. I mean, those are two different things. And so when it comes to that, make sure you understand what languages, make sure you understand where the need is, make sure you understand that technologies are available to help. When you're looking at technologies, make sure you're looking at privacy, make sure you're looking at the security that's built into them, and then make a decision. Maybe we often try or ask people to do is to try a test drive. I call them a test drive, where you try it a device or two, make sure you like the technology, make sure it works on your systems, make sure it works on your Wi-Fi before you make a bigger commitment. And then when you're ready to make that commitment, you launch it, utilize some training, and then soon after do an assessment to make sure that it's working for you, make sure that you have what you need, and then go from there. But that post launch assessment, I think, is huge and oftentimes gets overlooked. But if you do it in that order, I think you're going to be in good shape.
Right, because we're trying not to create another obstacle for them to overcome.
Exactly. That trial period is huge to me, because oftentimes people will launch a solution thinking that it's just great, but they haven't fully vetted the solutions and making sure they work in their environment, in their ecosystem, and doing that is vital to make sure that you have success. And because ultimately the success is going to be, how are the students feeling? How are they learning? How are your families being welcomed? How are your teachers feeling? Do they feel less stress? Or they feel that they're being more successful in what they do? And you want to make sure you cover all that, in order to ensure that that's all going to happen.
Yep. Awesome. Exactly. Eric, over to you.
I was going to start by almost calling you out for suggesting, I thought at first that you were a student in the 90s.
No.
And I was like, I was going to call bull on that, but then you calibrated and then changed it up.
I'm an adult in it.
But in answer to the question, actually, I really wouldn't, from my vantage point, presume to suggest or advise a teacher, an already overburdened teacher, on what more they need to be doing. I think they're probably deeply aware and, probably additionally stretched thin by virtue of having, the students in their classes who are not able to fully understand them. What I would offer them is some hope that there are products and services, online that, and, there are supports, there are things that can help alleviate that. So I encourage them in that zero amount of time that they have to look around for some of those supports. Know that there's a lot of folks out there who are trying to alleviate that particular situation. What I would be so bold as to suggest, though, to others, to business leaders, is that trying to alleviate this issue, trying to help these students only makes good business sense ultimately, whether you are directly getting revenue from that student at that time or whether you are helping develop somebody who is academically successful and then becomes a good citizen and consumer in the world. There is material good to be gained from simply investing your business capital in trying to solve that problem. So yeah, that's where I would aim my advice.
Yeah. Making the investment to lead to a even better outcome in the end, not just for that one individual, but for the society as a whole.
Precisely.
Yeah. Good way to land the conversation, but I gotta ask for any final tips, tricks, or advice you would like to give anyone listening before we close out today's episode. Oh, he's packing the mic back to you. He wants the time to think this time.
I did want the time to think this through.
I gave you both a heads up before we started.
You did. No, again, my tip isn't really a tip. It's actually just sort of a hopeful sign that, we talk a lot in our business here at Magic, and I'm sure at yours as well, about the pace of technology. You think about the chasms of time between, the Industrial Revolution and where we are today, and the innovations and the pace at which that is just quickening and redoubling. And, I think that innovation is just coming at a breathtaking pace these days. So while it's not a tip or a bit of advice, it's just a hopeful sign that, while all these innovations come with their own baggage and their own concerns and their own things we should be cognizant of and watch out for, there's a lot of solutions that are going to be present and made that much more available. As we were talking earlier, I even think about, well, there's all these solutions out there that teachers can avail themselves of, and then I immediately flash to, what if they're in a place that doesn't have great broadband? Those solutions don't mean as much. But again, innovations, investments are coming on all of these fronts. So things I think will continue to get better on this front over time.
Awesome. Hopeful, yeah. Arturo.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I was going to say. No, no. My tip tends to fall on families and ensuring that we think in terms of not just the student. Obviously, the student is number one, but oftentimes we neglect what we can be doing for families, and when we forget that the vital role that a family can play in student success, and so often, if the student is a newcomer and they're quiet and they just kind of sit in the back of the room, we tend to, I think, let them sit in the back of the room. And then the same goes for families. If the families aren't coming to school, we let them not come to school. We let them not engage. We let them sort of leave that to the schools. And my suggestion would be to do some outreach. Make sure you're involving every family, and with the technologies that we now available, you can definitely get out and do those home visits or reach out to them and try to invite them in and provide them with the welcoming environment from day one. I always recommend you have our translation technologies at the front desk, so that when the family first arrives on campus and you're welcoming them, they know that somebody's going to be able to communicate with them. Because if they feel that nobody's going to communicate with them, they're not going to come back. That's going to take a lot to have them come back and walk into the door. So having making sure that from day one that families feel welcome, that they feel that they can be a part of the community, the learning community, is vital. And if they're not, go out and figure out a way to get them in and make them part of what you're already doing in your school with all the other parents.
Yeah. Amazing advice from both of you, and it's really just the power of language and, as you said, community that comes with it, and making it so that everyone feels welcome in each learning space that they enter, so then they feel comfortable to actually participate and be an active learner. So I want to thank you both so much for being in this space with me and to have this very important conversation around how accessibility is really intertwined with being a learner and how it is now kind of intersecting with AI in this day and age. So yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, to anyone listening, thank you so much. I hope you learned something from today's episode. And remember to check out the rest of our EdTech Connect and stay curious. Thank you.